RT has been accused of paying right-wing influencers millions of dollars, and it's kind of an interesting story. People like Tim Pool and Dave Rubin you mentioned
Uh-huh.
were recipients of this money. My initial reaction when I hear this is the thing. Every time I hear a story, I'm like, is this true? What's
Uh-huh.
real? Because I feel like they're trying to frame this whole Russia's interfering in our
Hmm.
election again in some way. And this is here an example. So can you maybe tell us your thoughts on this first about what is this story? Does it hold merit? Do you think that it's
Yeah, well, we'll have to see the actual evidence. Yeah, the indictment points to two employees of RT, two employees in Moscow, and said that they sent $10 million to fund what you could call a right wing media platform, actually based in Tennessee. And it was, yeah, this platform, I guess, signed up a few pretty big names like Dave Rubin, Tim Pool. I certainly had heard of both of those guys and occasionally read some things by them. And then Benny Johnson, that's somebody I hadn't heard of, but he's been around and apparently, has kind of traveled through the right wing media sphere, was with National Review for a while. Now, the first thing I'm struck is that none of these people are in any way, pro-Russian, and nor are they particularly radical. They're just kind of part of the right wing media space. And maybe they're a little bit, they could, like Dave Rubin. I don't see why he couldn't appear on Fox News, or and Tim Pool. Again, I guess if you dig hard enough, there's something that he said that was supposed to be very, very shocking or whatever. But there really doesn't seem to be much. He's a fairly typical, again, right wing media person. I wouldn't even call him like a part of say any of them as part of the dissident right. So, the first question is, why would RT be doing this? Again, these aren't pro-Russian individuals, and nobody's even claiming that they are. I'll just read briefly, what was in the charges. Okay, many of the videos published by U.S. Company One, okay, that's the media platform in Tennessee, contain commentary on events and issues in the United States, such as immigration, inflation, and other topics related to domestic and foreign policy. Okay, well, so in other words, it's just a news platform. And then it goes on. While the views expressed in the videos are not uniform, subject matter and content of the videos are often consistent. The government of Russia's interest in amplifying U.S. domestic divisions in order to weaken U.S. opposition to core government of Russia interests, such as its ongoing war in Ukraine. Now, first of all, this is the first part is so vague and broad. They're not saying anything. Okay, they admit that the views are not uniform, and that the subject and matter. Okay, then they say the subject matter and content of the videos are often consistent. Okay, often consistent. Again, it's just like, okay, well, somebody often expresses an opinion that might be consistent with what? They're not even saying like with the positions or the opinions of the Russian government. They're not even saying that. They're not even saying that they're consistent, often consistent with talking points, but with their interest in amplifying U.S. domestic divisions. So apparently they have. So we're saying in other words, they're saying that like if you give Dave Rubin a platform. He already has a platform. You're just giving him slightly widening, giving him a larger platform, an additional platform. Somehow you're amplifying divisions, Dave Rubin, Tim Pool. One thing, this is, first of all, I was struck by the fact that it's always people on the right that amplify divisions or are somehow guilty of being divisive. People on the left never are, no matter how radical they go. I mean, like, because again, it's the left that controls the establishment narrative. So, you start pushing, transgender ideology. That's not divisive. If you actually start
going along with it is divisive.
yeah, right, exactly. That's the sort of thing. So anyway, I guess they're just guilty of being right wing, or vaguely, again, just sort of in a very banal kind of way of being sort of on the right side of the spectrum and that's it. And then, okay, so why would the Russian government want to support, kind of these main, rather, okay, not quite mainstream, but actually these days, I think you can even call them mainstream. Okay, they're not always on the news networks or anything, but so many people consume their news off of them. So, they have millions of, even this Benny Johnson character, I guess he has a YouTube channel and he has millions of.
Oh, I lost you, Dad. All right. You're back. Okay, a few technical difficulties.
All right.
Okay, so you were talking about Benny Johnson and how these guys are essentially mainstream media, just from their reach.
Yeah. So they all already have substantial reach. So one thing you can't say that they're by receiving extra support, it extends their reach some, but not much. I mean, again, be honest, just looking at it, like if Russia is really trying to influence American media, this doesn't seem to me like a very cost-effective way of doing it. I don't even know exactly what they would be trying to accomplish. Again, there's this very convoluted logic, that I read to you. Again, that they're trying to promote some kind of, well, these people have different ideas, it's admitted, but often they say things that are consistent with, okay, there's this long convoluted sentence, but often what they're saying essentially is that these people say things that are divisive. Now, again, I think I can't remember if this is something I said after the technical glitch or not, but divisive is something that's always associated with the right in this country. And I think unfairly. It just shows that, okay, basically it's an establishment word, an establishment term. Divisive means that you have an opinion opposed to the establishment, something that the establishment frowns upon, and you should not express it. So that's what these people are guilty of. Now, I think looking at it more fairly, if we step back and we're not part of the establishment and not even taking sides, it's just that they're actually promoting debate. So you could say that, by giving platforms to people that express opinions, whether they're right or wrong, but that are in opposition to the establishment, you're promoting debate. And that should be something that any healthy democracy would welcome. Yeah. But apparently this is a very bad thing, because again, the final part of this, that sentence that I read to you is that the videos, the subject matter and content of the videos are often consistent with the government of Russia's interest in amplifying U.S. domestic divisions in order to weaken U.S. opposition to core government of Russia interests, such as its ongoing war in Ukraine. So in other words, if we promote debate, there's a greater chance, I guess, that people might, that they
not want to support the war.
Well, that's the most particular thing. But in general, they say that broadly, core government of Russia interests, that we would end up taking, more likely that people will take positions that are not opposed to Russia. So anyway, it might reduce Russophobia, which apparently is a very, very serious problem, needs to be eliminated.
We have to make sure everybody hates Russia. That's basically what they're saying.
I mean, this is the sort of thing that only makes sense if you're just you're completely, pretty much a slave of the establishment. I mean, in your thinking, you're completely servile to the establishment, and you just will not brook any kind of opposition, and that you consider any kind of opposition to be a problem. So even people like Dave, really anodyne figures like Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, and this Benny Johnson, and I guess there were a couple of others on there. These are not firebrands. They're not wild and out there. They have opinions that are held by many tens and tens of millions of Americans. There's nothing really weird about them.
Right.
But they need to be shut up. Apparently just Dave Rubin, what they're saying here is somebody like Dave Rubin is actually a danger to our society because he somehow, again, promotes divisions, debate on issues, and this somehow will indirectly, through some convoluted path, aid Russia.
So are they going after the people that receive this money?
No, I don't think any charges are being filed against Dave Rubin or anything. They're directly against the employees of RT. Now, again, there's a whole question. The whole thing is so bizarre and makes so little sense, I think, from a Russian point of view, that I wonder whether it's real. That's, again, you had that question at the beginning. Is this, we'll have to find out. Maybe it is. I hope it isn't. Because if it is, it's not so much that it was malicious or, harmful, but it would just be stupid. Right. Because in the end, it would just be a really stupid, intervention. It doesn't help Russia at all, but it just makes RT look bad. It makes, and it's completely unnecessary. I don't know why. I mean, the whole thing is really kind of a joke and a waste of money. So I wonder if it really was something that RT was involved in, or if there maybe was some kind of setup involved. Maybe the details will come out later. Let's just wait and withhold our judgment at this point.
Right. The first episode we ever did, which was 4 months ago or so, maybe even longer now, 4 or 5, was actually talking about sort of the establishment bringing back Russiagate for this election, to do Russiagate 2.0. And that's what we were discussing in our very first episode. And for me, this is kind of what it feels like. It feels like they cooked up this allegation in the story. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But even say it doesn't really have, it's not really an election interference, letting Tim Pool or whatever. But what it is ammunition to feed the mainstream media to say that, look, Russia's interfering again in our elections again and again. And actually, in that first episode we did as well, we talked about how Putin said that he prefers Biden to Trump because Biden is more predictable. And then, John Kirby got up there and just said, Putin, you stay out of elections, quit meddling in our internal affairs. And we have this happening all over again. Right now, there's this Biden-Putin saying he endorses Kamala.
I think that clearly was tongue-in-cheek when he did that.
I was about to say, is he just joking, messing around? I think
if you watch it, he was clearly just joking. He just said that, and she has an infectious laugh. So I think he was just kind of poking fun at her. Everybody knows she has this crazy cackle. But I think he may have actually been serious about saying that the Russians have said several times that it really doesn't matter. There's no significant difference because in the end, the deep state runs foreign policy. But it's true. Putin did say that he favored Biden, and a lot of people assume that this was some sort of attempt to help Trump in an underhanded way. But I think he may have just been speaking the truth. It's not. Yeah, of course, Biden is a Russian hater. He always has been. But he's very consistent, and the Russians know him very well. He's been there forever. He's been involved in foreign policy for decades and decades and decades. They know who they're dealing with. Maybe recently they don't know so much because he hasn't been all there. But with Trump, sometimes he says things that sound very friendly to Russia, but the fact is during his administration, he did a lot of things that were very hostile to Russia. And, in spite of always being charged with being a Russian agent, Obama was much easier to get along with and was actually much more restrained in his dealings with Russia than Trump was. Trump is just so difficult to predict. He says one thing, he does another thing. You just never know what's going to happen from day to day. And if you're dealing, again, both sides are armed to the teeth with nuclear missiles. It's just from a game theory point of view, it just makes sense to, you want to know what your opponent's going to do. You know, you want to have a sense of certainty. And
Yeah.
even if he's hostile,
anybody know
he's
if Biden-
consistently hostile. You know how to deal with it.